Okay, I covered this in other videos, but then I realized, oh, I actually wrote it as a different category in a different video. Okay, so falling for your best friend, classics, you know. Okay, this is a little bit of gay stereotype, but it's kind of, a lot of stereotypes are right. Right on the money. But the main deal was, like, that they just assumed that all gays acted like this, and that they were all the same, which is wrong. But, oh, I guess a little bit in a different video being like, for people to, like, change, because, like, homophobia and transphobia, and, like, you don't know about, like options and different ways to dress, that people can wear different makeups and stuff like that, and you don't know that gay people exist, and that people have different ethnicities, and that aren't just all white, that they have different skin tones, and that people are different sizes. You only know what you were taught and what you've seen around you, and it's not usually taught, and they don't teach you usually about gay people. And they just don't tell you that they exist, and you have to just learn and figure it out on your own. And they usually teach you just, like, bad things, and they just say negative things about it, so you're like, oh, this is wrong, this is bad, because it's what I've been told my entire life. So when you do learn it, you're probably more hesitant, and you'd be like, I'm kind of worried about this, because my parents are really against this, and I don't know what's happening, and it can't be this, because I've been told I've been something else my entire life, and crap like that. No, but with that, yeah, you usually have to, like, come to a realization. You'd be like, oh, I want to learn more and stuff. It's usually, that force is usually being, like, falling for your best friend. That's usually a classic. It does happen. But that doesn't mean, like, you'll fall for all your friends and stuff like that. Or just, it's usually, like, you fall for a boy, and it's a lot easier for you to, like, fall for your, like, best friend and everything, because you're, like, really close, and you're like, I trust you, or at least you, like, come out to them. But then there's, like, that whole big deal, and I used to read about that. And there's that whole, like, president, and crazy, because they did it for the longest time, and they're now doing it to trans people. They're always like, oh, gay people are all just, like, pedophiles, and they're all just, like, they're all rapists, and they just target men and everything like that. And then, like, all these cis guys and everything, and they say that they're scared, and they'll be like, oh, if a guy likes me, it's really bad and everything. I was like, they're never gonna make sexual advances at you. They're not gonna make passes at you. And they're most likely not gonna rape you or anything like that. I was like, there are very, very few, and extremely few cases. But yeah, they have happened. But most of the case, like, where, like, a guy was raped. But, like, they were never straight. They were also, like, gay, and it was usually just because they were in an abusive relationship. Or the big thing was in the whole movie Cheer and everything. There was an older, he was a college student, so he was older and everything, and he was messing around, and he was sending sexual things to minors, who were like, hey, I might be gay and everything, and, like, I like your video and I think you're cool, and, like, I might be into gymnastics and stuff like that, and then he used that, and he used his popularity and everything to get closer to them, and then send them, and get them to send, like, naked pictures and stuff like that, and he's in prison, or under house arrest and stuff like that. So there are very rare cases like that. And for, like, pedophiles, I'm like, they're just pedophiles. You call them that, and they, like, and you're like, oh yeah, like, a lot of them got away with, like, targeting boys because they're like, boys don't like boys and stuff like that. And, like, they acted like, what did they act like? And they're always cis white straight men, and they're usually also religious. But you're like, oh, they almost only always targeted boys, and they molested and raped boys, so that makes them gay. Like, no, they didn't identify gay, and they always said that they were straight. They just did horrible things to minors, and they're just horrible people, and they're just monsters. And those cases are extremely rare, or where they would ever identify as gay is extremely rare. And in some of those cases, they might be aware of the whole trans thing, that deal, and being like, oh, they're predators and all this crap. No, people are pretending to be gay or pretending to be trans. They're just saying that crap to try and not get punished and try and get sent to, like, girls' prison or something like that. They're trying to get out of trouble and try to get a lighter sentence. and not get in trouble. They say, oh, if I identify as this, you can't arrest me, you can't get me in trouble, I can get out of jail, it's a free jail card, that type of crap. But it's not how that works. So those criminals who do that, and use that fear and that prejudice to their advantages, are wrong, and they do not help that. But yeah, no, that's 100% not the case. And in fact, it was almost always the cis straight guy who's like, he'd be like, oh, he was flirting with me or whatever. You're like, no, you found out that he was gay, so you raped him. I was like, and even like in that case and everything, where the gay was the predator and everything, he only attacked the victims were also all gay or bisexual. They were all into guys. So gays are almost always the victims. Rarely predators, and if they are predators, then their victims are gay as well. So, and that was also a huge deal and a huge problem of people not taking it serious and being like, oh, you can't be like assaulted or raped or anything like that if you're both gay and you're in a relationship and stuff like that. But you're like, that's not how relationships work. Because they had just gotten being like, oh, if you're married or you're in a relationship, you could still like be raped, and it could still be non-consensual, and could still be molestation and stuff like that. Yeah, sorry, I got off track. But yeah, it's other comments and other things I think about that really pissed me off. But yeah, I was like, they're always like beaten up for like being gay, and they would always be harassed and raped and molested and crap like that. And I was like, the gays were being attacked, not the straight people. So I don't know why you were feeding fear, and it pisses me off that they're doing the same thing. It's just, they're like, we don't like you, so we're gonna teach everyone that you're bad and they're evil, and that we can kill you and get away with it, and that we can hurt you and we can rape you, and it's perfectly fine, and we can get away with you, and we can promote it, and we can teach everyone to do it, and we'd be like, yeah, that's okay, and we encourage it. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to beat up gay people. It's a good thing to rape them and all this crap. Yeah, so just no, not okay at all. Okay, sorry, a lot of negativity, get out of the way. No, but, yeah, a lot of cases, Oh, it was because the whole point was, like, a lot of cases, a lot of what happened was they came out to, like, their best friend. They were like, hey, like, I kind of had a crush on you, but I know you don't feel the same way. But I just wanted to tell you. Or being like, hey, I think I might be into that guy, or I thought that guy was cute, and I trust you enough to tell you. And then they betray them, and they rat them out, and be like, oh, now I hate you now, and I'm going to attack you, and bully you, and hurt you. Yeah. No, but yeah, to usually figure it out and realize that you're like, gay or bisexual or whatever, just to question it, you'd be like, oh, it's that idea of being like, hey, if like I was a girl, maybe I would date my best friend. You're like, or being like, are you still in a relationship? You're like, hey, it would be really easy, like, if I dated my best friend. And you'd be like, oh yeah, some people like have those thoughts, and they might be like 99% straight or whatever, but if they have that thought like repeating and a lot of the time, then you're like, maybe you're just like 90 or like 80% like straight, and you just like 10 or like 5% or like 20%, just a small percentage of being like, hey, I might be into guys, I might experiment, or like, oh, I think that guy's hot, so I'm a little bit gay. But for the most part, I'm still straight. But yeah. Decided to miss it on that page. But to like figure out and be like, think about it and everything, be like, hey, maybe I'm not completely straight. You usually have like a crush on your best friend. You're like, hey, I like you. And in my case, I was like, and it was also like, they always broke up with their boyfriends and everything anyway. And then I always heard about my friends complaining about their relationships. So I was like, I would be a better boyfriend, you know. You have that confidence. You're like, I would be better. I would treat you nicer. I'm nicer to you. That type of thing. And I was also like, you're an angel and I'm a devil, so I protect you. I protect you from everyone. I acted like a mother bear and stuff. I was like, no one gets close to you. No one can touch you, and no one deserves you because you're an angel. You're perfect. You're beautiful. Yeah, it's also really sad because they were bullied and stuff, so they didn't see themselves as my eyes, and see themselves as quite the same value, even when they're little. But they usually bounce back pretty quickly when they're younger, and then they went spent like a year going to Florida where they didn't have any friends, and they had to start from scratch. They didn't know anyone, and then they were really bullied, and they could only make a few friends, and it was just really hard, and so they got really depressed. And so I felt like they kind of evened out, because I was kind of jealous before. I was like, you're a little bit too happy, and you bounce back, and I can't quite do that, you know? Not that healthy. And I was like, you're still healthier than that, but you really know what depression feels like now. Because you could relate to me a little bit, and you were depressed, like, sometimes a little bit before, but you didn't like, feel it extreme or, like, for long periods of time, and you weren't, like, super lonely and didn't have any friends, and stuff like that. But now you understand me more. You can relate more to me, so you're a little bit closer. And now you also have more issues, especially since I was like, oh, you're perfect, and everything about you is perfect. You'd be like, oh, flaws, but I was like, that just means you're human, but you're still perfect to me. And you'd be like, oh, now you're a little bit more down to earth, a little bit more human, and we can relate a little bit more. Yeah. No, but yeah. I never told them that I had a crush on them. Yeah, I just never confessed. I was like, nope, you're not into me, it's fine. Yeah, so I was like, in my case, like, I just never, and I was also like, I can't be, like, bisexual or whatever, and then, but later I was like, hey, maybe I'm bisexual, and we were figuring it out, together and everything like that. And I also have a denial, because I was like, I was told my whole life, you know, I'll be straight all the time. And they're like, maybe you're also ace, and then I was like, maybe I am ace, and then I was like, no, I'm straight. You only lashed out because you were trying to convince yourself, and you weren't quite believing and getting it, and you were questioning it, and you're like, no, only one thing can change at a time. Just keep learning that things I'm taught is not wrong, it's not right, and their opinions are wrong, and that everything they said about gay and trans people is wrong, and that it's bad, and that my friends can identify as whatever, and I should be more supportive and more open about it and learn more about it. I just reached that point, so I wasn't ready to question my identity. I wasn't ready to confront my feelings or think about it yet. So I fought against them a little bit, but yeah. No. But I did tell their ex-boyfriend that they were still, like, friends with and hang around a lot. He was just in the friends group. For the most part, I was like, I really didn't have any actual friends. My best friend was my only friend. Everyone else was just, like, extra. They were all just friends with them at the time. They were her at the time, yeah. I'm trying to fix that, what I talked about before about using old pronouns and things like that, and old names, dead names. But yeah. It's also helping me trying to know who I'm talking about. But yeah, so my best friend and everything like that. They were outgoing, and they were a lot more ambitious, and they trusting more people and everything like that. So they made a lot of friends. A lot of them turned out to be fake friends and stuff like that, but they still made a lot more friends, and they actually went out and they talked to people willing to open up and all that. So they made friends with other people, and then we usually just hung out in a group, and for the most part, I was just always following them and hanging out with them, because I was like, you're a safe place to be. You're a safe person. I like you. We're best friends. We're always together. So I was just always around them. So then I was just nice, and I was like, okay. And I kind of just tolerated the people that she was friends with and that were just hanging around, and I was like, okay. And then we'd sometimes talk, and we just bare minimum talk, and then got a little bit closer and a little bit closer. So then we kind of became friends, but it all just really was based on my best friend, and that was it. And then when they left for a year, and they came back the next year, I was forced to push myself out there and make other friends. That's where I made friend Josephine. I think I'm saying that right. I kept just thinking, I was like, oh, no, it's Jocelyn. I'm not saying that right, because I'm like, it's Jocelyn. But I'm like, no, it's a C and not an S-H-H. But I can never say it correctly. I can say it correctly really rare occasions. So they just got used to me saying it wrong and not being able to spell it. And then I got used to them being overly touchy because I was desperate and I couldn't say no. And I was scared of them abandoning me and having no friends at all. And no people to talk to. And they were the only person who talked to me and tolerated me. So we just hung out all the time. I just hung out with them, and they would hang out with their friends, and I would just follow them around. But they were, like, super touchy, holding my hands, hugging me all the time. But I really hated it because I didn't really trust them, and we weren't there yet, and I was only okay with my best friend doing that, and even sometimes I couldn't do that. And I didn't like that. And then my friend also, like, started doing that less and less. Because I know, for the most part, I didn't like it. But sometimes then later on, when they stopped doing it and, like, they barely ever did it, sometimes, on really rare occasions, I would be, like, just crave physical intimacy, like I do now sometimes. But now I'm like, that is what my pillows are for and what my stuffed animals are for. It's to hug and pet and to get physical affection. And it's positive. Yeah, no, but I was like, I trust you and love you, so I'm more open and okay with you hugging me. And, like, I really trust you and I really love you, so I'm really okay with you hugging me. But sometimes if you hug me, I'm just, like, annoyed or in a bad mood. Or, like, I was triggered by something, so I'm not the happiest about you touching me and hugging me right now. But you don't trigger me at all. Not really. It might make me, like, a little bit more irritated, a little bit more angry about you hugging me, but you're not the cause and you're not the problem. Something else is the problem. And, yeah. So it's 100% not you. Yeah, no. Yeah. Oh, and then later on, I was also, like, I fell for one of my other friends, ex, and then I actually did confess to them later on, when I was, like, I think I'm, like, bisexual and bigendered and stuff like that, and I was figuring out if I was gay and stuff like that. I did end up confessing. I ended up confessing twice, and then I ran away, and then I, like, avoided them for a week, but it didn't really make much difference, because we were in separate classes and different lunch times, so it was hard to see each other normally. But, yeah, and then we just went back to normal, because I knew, and they knew, that they didn't like me, and that we didn't really want to date, and we didn't want to be, and they liked someone else, and I think they weren't dating at the time. No, they had just broken up with someone, so I was like, and I waited, like, a couple months, and then I confessed, because I had liked them for a while, and I waited, like, maybe, like, 6 months or something, maybe a little less than that, to confess my feelings, partially because they were in a relationship, and partially just because I just want to confirm my feelings and be like, yeah, I have to tell them just to get it out of my system and be like, I told someone. Yeah, but I was like, I like you and you're also a guy, so I'm attracted to that, but I'm not attracted to your physical body because you're not comfortable with your physical body, and you're also trans, so you're not happy with your physical body, and I'm not happy with my physical body, so intimacy is 100% off the table because we both don't like our bodies, and I'm not physically attracted to your body, but I'm physically attracted to your identity as a man, and I'm emotionally attracted to you. And in my best friend's cases, they were my family, they were my world, they were everything in my life, so I loved them emotionally, and I wasn't physically attracted to them at all. And that's why I was like, oh yeah, you're gay, but you're pansexual because you love them emotionally. They have your heart, and you will love them forever, and they can't hate you, and they were forever your sole reason for living, so you tried to get rid of them so you could die, but then that didn't work, and then you slowly were able to accept that some of your family members accepted you, and they actually did love you, but only because you were finally able to accept and you understood that your best friend loved you and cared about you, and tell you, hey, this is normal, like, affection and care and being nice to you and treating you like real family, and then becoming my real family in my world. And so I'm just really happy about them, and they're an amazing person, and they're non-binary now, and they're, like, even a little bit of, like, a drag king and everything like that. They call themselves, like, a drag daddy on Facebook, and they're exploring a lot more with Facebook, or just something that was on Facebook. their comment about the drag daddy, but they're swearing a lot more with makeup, and they're looking sometimes a lot more masculine and stuff like that. I wasn't sure and wasn't confident because I didn't know anything, so I wasn't the greatest when they came out to me, as they would be like, hey, I'm still figuring it out, but I think I'm like non-binary. And I was like, okay. I didn't really know anything about it, and I was like, for the most part, they were still pretty comfortable, still dressing like just in their normal clothes and more feminine, and everything like that. And they hadn't really started exploring as much and getting into like more masculine clothing and dresses and makeup and stuff like that. There was like a little bit of change in what they wore in their makeup, but for the most part, it was the same. So I didn't really notice, and I didn't really understand, and they were also still learning about their identity and if they were non-binary and all of that. So I just didn't get it like at all, and I learned a little bit more about it. And then I was more forced to like confront myself and learn a lot more about it, because it turned out that my friends weren't straight. They were all coming out to me, and they were like, "Hey, that." But yeah. Oh, and then a little while ago, I think my friend was probably sad and maybe hurt a little bit, but I didn't get it at the time. I still don't, but I think they didn't understand, because they're like, your mom doesn't know that like I was born out of wedlock, that my mom didn't get married. And I was like, yeah, I just let my mom believe whatever she wanted. And I was like, maybe she knew. Maybe your mom told her. But otherwise, I just let her believe whatever she wants. I didn't tell her anything about you. And I never tell her anything about my friends or anything like that, because I don't tell her anything about me. I'm definitely not going to tell her anything about you guys, because then she might think you're a bad influence. And she might make us so I can't see you anymore, and that we can't be friends anymore over anything I tell her. And she might be mean to you or not as nice, and might not let you come over. So I'm protecting you from her, and I'm protecting myself from her and my family, so they know nothing about you and nothing about your family, and they never will, because I have to protect you. Yeah. No, but yeah, I was like, no, I don't know if my mom knows. Yeah, I was like, I don't think she does. And then I was like, I don't think she knew anything, and I definitely don't think so, because my sister had a kid and she didn't get married, and my parents slipped out and they were super hard on her. So I was like, yeah, that's what would have happened. It would have been worse, like probably even worse. She was my best friend. I wouldn't be able to see you and wouldn't talk to you or anything. Just never, ever. They would be able to see you, and they didn't believe in divorce, they didn't believe in abortion, they didn't believe in getting separated, they didn't believe having kids out of wedlock, they didn't believe any of that crap. They're like, none of that's all sins and all this crap. You're going to hell if you do any of that. So, and you can't be trans, you can't be gay, you can't be any of this. And they were also, they said they weren't racist, but I was like, you act racist, and you're all like, oh, all Asian people are the same, and you assumed everyone who looked a little bit different and tried to speak in their language. You couldn't even pronounce anything in their language anyway. You completely butchered their language, and you only knew maybe a few words anyway. And almost all of them didn't know that language. They didn't know Chinese. They didn't know. Yeah, it was usually, and they also just assumed they were all like Chinese and everything like that. I was like, they're born Americans. They don't know any of this crap, and it was just super embarrassing all the time. And then he'd do the same thing. He'd try and speak in like a different language to just black people and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's all really racist. Yeah. And he'd be like, oh, I have Chinese friends, I have black friends, so I can't be racist. Yeah. You barely meet and ever talk to those people. And you're not the greatest, and I don't think you're even like, you might be even a little bit homophobic, racist towards them as well. And I don't think you have any actual black friends, and you maybe have a Chinese friend, but for the most part, you really don't. You don't really have any friends. You don't have any deal with any ethnicity if it's friends. You just don't. You just talk to people. You talk to very few people, just occasionally. You're just friendly and acquaintances with a few people who are like Chinese. Or a different ethnicity, and that's it. Because you see them more than like once or twice ever. So you talk to them, yeah. But yeah, so my parents didn't know anything about my best friend, didn't know anything about my friends. Especially since I was also like, I was trying to protect my friends, especially since I was like, their parents were homophobic and transphobic, and they came out to me, and I was like, yeah, don't say anything about my parents, because they're also, I won't be able to see you again if they learn anything about you. I will never be able to see or talk to you ever again, and then they'll probably try and find and talk to your parents and crap like that, and it'll be a wreck. And they weren't ready to come out to their parents. They were just trying to come out to a friend. I was like, don't say anything around my parents, because they're horrible people. They're just really homophobic and transphobic, just like your parents. But after you came out to your parents, they all just acted Christian. They're like, oh, now we're religious. Now we're going to hell. But before, they didn't really care. They weren't really religious. They didn't really care. But my parents started out super religious, and then they just kept bringing down the hammer on me constantly, 24/7. When they usually just brought it around just occasionally, because they're like, oh, we ingrained it to you 24/7 as a child and everything. And we always had Bible study, our own Bible study, and always made you go to church all the time. And you were always in church groups and all this stuff all the time, and always at church. And we also had our own little Bible groups at home all the time. And then for a little bit, they even had like a Bible study group after school, so I'd have to go to that at the school. And they had their own camps and everything over the summer. They had like Bible camps. I'd go to all of those. I was always at church, always at religion stuff, always been crammed in with religion. And they were always hammering it into me, just normal conversations. And then every night they would read straight from the Bible and teach lessons and all this crap every night, every single night. And they would go to church. And as I grew older, they do it a little bit less and less. And they're like, oh, it's my fault that you came out as this, because we forgot, we missed driving, we don't do Bible study as much anymore, and we forgot to hammer it into you again. So we're going to go hardcore and say it every single word of our mouth about you going to hell, and oh, you can change, you can convert back to Christianity and all this crap. And I was like, yeah, it's not going to happen, and I fought with a little bit. I didn't really say, I said a little bit. I was like, I hinted that I was an atheist, but I didn't really say it fully, because I was like, you might try and do something else if you realize that you can't religion against me completely. But you know a little bit that you can no longer use religion to control me and influence me anymore. Okay, sorry, that's a little bit into religion and family issues. It's usually what happens. But yeah, it was just a wreck. Oh, my legs. Oh. They're all propped up and everything, and then they both fell asleep. Trying to put feeling back in my feet a little bit. Okay, yeah. That should be everything for my best friend. I love them, they're amazing, I still care about them, but I never talk to them. It's because, they're busy with their life, and they moved on with their life, and they made friends and everything, and I'm like, I'm happy for you. And also, mostly because they changed their number, because I used to just still, like, text their number and everything. They get it to their younger brother, and that's probably also where I got my name, because their younger brother is also named Max. He doesn't have Florida and everything. And she visited him, like, every summer and for Christmas and all the holidays. Yeah, like, technically he's his half-brother, but I'm like, it's still 100% a brother, you know? It just has a different mom. Because her dad got married and everything. So my lip is now itchy. I think I just saw it in the camera, and I was like, scratch all the body parts. Alright, that's everything. Bye.